Did you know that more than 600,000 people were involved in the liquidation effort in the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster? An extensive cleanup operation was carried out to control the release of radioactive materials and contain the spread of radioactive contamination. The effort involved hundreds of thousands of workers, referred to as liquidators, who cleaned up the area around the damaged reactor. They also built a sarcophagus around the reactor to contain the remaining radioactive materials. Removing debris and radioactive material, this involved cleaning up the area around the damaged reactor and decontaminating buildings, roads, and other structures. The liquidators were also involved in the construction of a massive concrete sarcophagus designed to contain the remaining radioactive materials. They worked to decontaminate the evacuated areas around the power plant and to make them safe for resettlement. During a later stage, liquidators decommissioned the damaged reactor, including the removal of damaged fuel rods and the sealing of the reactor core. They continued to be involved in monitoring and maintaining the containment of radioactive materials at the site. This included the sarcophagus and the spent fuel storage facilities. The liquidators also assisted in the evacuation of over 100,000 people from the surrounding area and the relocation of affected populations. The over 600,000 liquidators faced significant health risks due to exposure to high levels of radiation. Many of them have since suffered from a range of health problems, including increased rates of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and other illnesses. In addition, many have also reported mental health problems, such as anxiety and depression. The government of the Soviet Union provided some compensation and medical support to the liquidators. However, the exact extent of the health impacts and the number of deaths related to the disaster is still unclear. The Chernobyl disaster's impact on the health of the liquidators continues to be a source of concern and the subject of ongoing study. The Policia Hotel was built in the 1970s to accommodate party officials and guests visiting the nuclear power plant. After the Chernobyl disaster, Pripyat was evacuated and the hotel abandoned. Today, the Policia Hotel is one of many abandoned structures in the exclusion zone and a popular destination for tourists exploring this ghost town. The hotel was used as headquarters for the liquidators and their operations. Spotters used the roof to coordinate helicopters dumping sand and boric acid and directed machines into the exposed reactor core. Rumor has it that Gorbachev stayed at the hotel once when he came to check on the progress of the liquidation. The hotel is located on Lenin Square and used to be part of a complex that included the hotel, the Palace of Culture Energetic, a department store, and a diner. There were also plans for a cafe on the top floor of the hotel, but it never opened. The Policia is where Valery Legasov, a scientist renowned for his portrayal in the HBO series, stayed during his first days on site after the Chernobyl disaster. The Palace of Culture Energetic was the cultural center of Pripyat. It was built in the 1970s and is one of the largest structures in the city. It was a locus of cultural, educational, and sporting events. After the Chernobyl disaster, the building was abandoned along with the rest of the city, but its ruin remains there to this day.
Energetic was a play on words referencing both the power plant worker and the positive energy of the Pripyat community.
In 1988, the Soviet Union had over 137,000 palaces of culture. They were large community centers established during the Soviet era. The Palace of Culture Energetic hosted discos every weekend. These events were named Edison II after the electronic music equipment. They were very popular among the residents of Pripyat. After the disaster, the Energetic was used as a technical building for the liquidators. The amusement park was planned to be a recreational spot for residents of the city and surrounding areas. It was intended as a fun place for children and families and featured a number of attractions, including a Ferris wheel, swings, and a carousel. However, due to radioactive contamination following the disaster, the park was never opened to the public and remained abandoned for years. Some of its attractions are still standing, though they are severely deteriorated and contaminated with radioactive materials. Ironically, the grand opening was supposed to take place on May 1st, just days after the disaster. Some claim the park was partially opened for a couple of hours before that day to distract the citizens of Pripyat from the accident at the power plant. There were at least 2 illegal attempts by stalkers to revive the Ferris wheel. In response, Ukrainian authorities welded various metal components of the Ferris wheel together, so it could not be powered up again. It was a serious safety concern. Hopefully no one will try something so reckless again. The Ferris wheel is an abandoned amusement park ride located in the heart of the ghost town of Pripyat. It is also an iconic symbol of the city. It's a popular tourist attraction. Along with other rides, it remains in its original location, overgrown with vegetation and slowly turning to rust. The Ferris wheel was never used, as the disaster occurred just days before the city was set to officially open the amusement park. The grand opening was scheduled to take place on May 1st, 1986. It's 24 meters tall and would complete a full rotation in 5 minutes. It was intended as entertainment for children and to provide a view of the city. The amusement park grounds served as a landing pad for helicopters taking part in the liquidation. The machines were routinely cleaned and the radionuclides washed into the soil. While areas covered in concrete are relatively safe, radiation levels in places where moss is growing reach up to 25,000 microsievert per hour, some of the highest in all of Pripyat.